Okay, Hare Krishna, dear ladies. Welcome to the May Urban Devi Sangha and Women's Discussion Group. A special welcome to those joining us for the first time. If you are joining us for the first time, please write it in the chat so that we can all say hello. I promise we're a very friendly group. My name is Damodar Priya Devi Dasi, and I co-host this monthly gathering with our dear Rukmini Walker and Surbi Govinda Devi Dasi. So let me introduce our guest speaker for today. Namita Purohit, or Navakishori Devidasi, is an engaged coach and teacher who has served many across the United States, Europe, and India on emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and inner balance. Namita has a holistic approach in working with the body, the mind, and energy to bring about a sustainable change in her clients' patterns. Her programs are informed by Eastern wisdom and Western psychology. Additionally, Namita received the Gold Star Employee Award during her stint as a software engineer at Microsoft. So that's quite impressive there. And then her topic for today is finding strength in difficult relationships, as you can see on the screen, and a little bit about that topic. So navigating tough relationships can be incredibly hard and painful, often causing individuals to lose themselves in the process. However, in today's Urban Devi, Namita will help us explore a way to reclaim stability and resilience, ensuring that despite the challenges, we can emerge stronger without sacrificing our true selves. So thank you so much, Namita, for being here. We're so excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much. And I'm very grateful to the Urban Devi team, Rukmini Devi, Damodar Priya, Surabhi Govinda, and Sadhna, and everyone else. It's just amazing how well organized the whole system is and how well this is done. It was very easy for me to plan everything and I had all the instructions in place. And this is such a wonderful place for urban devis to congregate and share with each other. So today, I'm grateful for the opportunity of sharing. I used to be a techie in my previous life, but last 15 years or more, I have been in the space of coaching, and I do different things. And one of the programs that I really focus on and I help people. So I focus on leaders and helping them grow in their leadership. But there's also another part of my program offerings where I focus on something called as Heal Strong, because there are many people in many, many difficult relationships, and I like to serve them with different tools so that they can navigate those situations well and keep their strength and sanity, and actually not just survive in life but thrive, to become healed and whole and grow and glow. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, and I have a lot planned, but I'm going to keep my presentation short so that we have more time for the discussions and Q&A. So having said that, you can see my screen. So today we're going to talk about that. A lot of people come to me where they want to know, like, oh, I am in this difficult relationship. How do I deal with this situation? How do I say this when my partner says this? Or how do I do this when my partner does this to me? And it's a lot of, they want to know, how do I deal with that situation? And what I tell people and what I've learned over the years is just learning techniques of dealing with them in the moment does not help, because there are two stages before that need to happen, which is the reveal stage and the heal stage. So it's a three-step process that I'm going to introduce you today. It's a lot, but I'll try my best to introduce it enough so that you start thinking about it and start including it in your life. It's hard to deal at a certain level unless we ourselves are healed and confident in our own selves. It's hard for us to deal in a very sustained way in a difficult situation. So just tips that do not work, because our entire being has to be able to follow those, to deal in that moment. And for that, we need to be healed and whole. And for us to be healed and whole, we need to have to understand, what is the lay of the land? What are the types of people I'm dealing with right now? What is their dynamic? What is their temperament? And what is my hook here? What is causing me to be vulnerable in this situation? And that's what the reveal stage does. So we're going to dive into these three steps. We're going to have comments, discussions, Q&A. and we're going to stay connected. So there are two types of people in difficult relationships that you may encounter. Some are immature. They're just immature. They don't know how to be in a relationship with you, and it ends up you being, in a very tough spot with them. So they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to develop relationships. They don't understand their own needs and feelings. You know, sometimes they carry how they have been treated, and they have those tendencies, and they kind of just put it out on you. And since they don't understand their own needs and feelings, they don't understand yours, and they end up mistreating you. But then there is this bigger demon. That's why I have this picture over there. Like in the scriptures, you have, you know, uh, like you have a Ravana, who's like demon energy personified. Like how bad and how greedy and how harmful could you be? And these kind of metaphors, or in popular culture, it's caricatures that we see. They're like, if somebody's nose is a little different, they'll like make that as the prominent feature of the caricature so that we can recognize. So we also have the other spectrum, which is the toxic, narcissistic people who have narcissistic, very pronounced narcissistic tendencies, very toxic tendencies. And these are not people who just don't know how to behave, or who could be trained to do better. Like the immature ones could be trained, if they learn better and if they're ready, then, they can be trained. But then there is this whole demonic side of things, which is they actually plan their attack on you. They are truly toxic, want to destroy you, criticize you to break your confidence, and they're here to use you. You don't exist as a human being for them. It's And they have no empathy, no remorse for their actions. They just don't have that part of. They just don't process all of that in their life, and they're here to really use you as an object without valuing your needs and feelings for their own gains. So what we're going to do today is present this personality uh, more, explain things from this standpoint more. Once you understand how to deal with them, you can understand how to deal with the immature ones. It's just like when you read about these demons in the different ancient scriptures. You see, oh, this is greed personified, this is lust, this is anger, this is envy personified. So it becomes easier to spot those things. So I'm not saying all relationships are toxic and narcissistic. I'm not a therapist to diagnose people with narcissistic personality disorder. But what we are here is we're here to discuss some tendencies that people carry, and the hooks that we have, and what can we do to navigate while keeping our inner core strong, while keeping our sanity, and while keeping our spiritual life also on track. So reveal, heal, and deal. Why is it important? Uh, Usually, what happens is when these stages are not done and people are in those very difficult relationships trying to navigate, I see different responses that come. And one of them is, why am I in this situation? Maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I am not behaving right. Maybe I don't something is wrong with me. I need to fix my own behavior. Yeah, I think I'm getting angry, or I need to serve better so that this person is happy around me, right? So usually what happens is when you haven't understood and done these stages, you end up trying to fix yourself nonstop, and it doesn't work, because you haven't understood the lay of the land. And no matter how much you fix yourself, people in those situations tend to get even more blamed and used and abused even more. Or the other one of the other responses I see is that, how can I? Oh, they just don't know. They didn't receive enough love in their life, or they don't know how to do things, and they don't know better. So with my love and with my empathy and with my care, um, I can help them have a normal relationship with me, because I can be happy only when they are behaving nicely with me. Otherwise, I can't be happy, right? So it's one of these two responses, or many other responses like that happen, which don't really help the person in that situation. And if you see here, on the right, you see this line sketch where the eyes of this woman are closed, and she's still thinking that there is some love possible over here. And only when she can open her eyes with the reveal, heal, and deal, that she can see what it is, and then she can decide how she wants to engage. So that's what we hear. So let's talk about stage one is reveal. Okay, before we go there, there's a A lot happening, right? So again, talking about like the biggest, the ones with whom the difficult can be like most difficult relationships, is that why do these toxic and narcissistic people, why do they do that? We're doing the reveal stage, yes, because they want to break your confidence. Why do they want to break your confidence? So that when you're broken, they can control you. And when you are broken and they can control you, which means, and they know you're super talented. Their targets are usually people, and this, even men can be narcissistic, women can be narcissistic. This is a very gender neutral disorder. uh, so they want to break you, and they choose very talented, very accomplished people as their partners, or friendships and things like that, because they know you're really good at what you do, or what you bring to the table. They want to break you so that they can control you. Why? So that you can continue being a supply for them, that one can continue, your talents can be used for them. Because if they break your confidence, you don't use all of those resources for your own growth. You start, because you're so broken in confidence, you see them as some kind of deity, and you start serving them. And they don't want you to ever outshine them. And you're an object for them, your feelings don't matter. And all this helps them feel significant in some way. Now, what are some of the things they do? I can't get into the details of all in the interest of time. I'll just talk about some things here. Lying, gaslighting, and validating. The whole gaslighting is where they just invalidate your reality, right? And this comes from the movie where there was this woman, she was staying in the apartment, and then she would feel like the lights were, dimming during the day, and then she would tell her husband about it, and the husband will be like, oh, it's all in your mind and there's nothing happening. The lights are not dimming and, going on and off, and, everything's just fine. There's something wrong with you. And it turned out that somebody else was changing the gas flow for the lights. In the olden days, I believe gas was used to light the lights. And because of that, the lights were dimming, and he was actually doing that. And that's where the origin of the term gaslighting came from. And they convince the person in the relationship with them, when they're complaining or they're sharing their sense of reality, that hey, you're mentally unfit or you're too sensitive. I didn't do that. That's just how you see things. Or they'll just try to erase that memory and confuse you even about your memory. And you, being a conscientious, empathic, thoughtful, sensitive perfectionist, you tend to believe that, because your whole inner mechanism is to first look at feedback. Another thing they do is target your weakness. You may share in a relationship about some weakness of yours, and they'll listen to you. They'll give you that shelter at that time, but later on, your weakness will be targeted, and unrealistic expectations will be set on you. They'll make fun of your weakness in public, shame you, or keep reminding you of that one thing. And because you're sensitive, and because you want to be the best you can be, you take it all to heart, and that's another hook that happens. Chaos and confusion, like in this experiment, this kindness experiment. I mean, the purpose of this experiment was something completely different, but the scientists had set this whole cage up, that if the depending on which light, so if there's a green light, there was cheese coming out, and if there's a red light, then there was a slight electric current for the mouse inside. And then the mouse learned that, oh, when I press this green thing, I get cheese. When I press the red thing, I get an electric shock. But then then the scientists changed it and swapped the circuit. So it created a lot of confusion in the mouse, and then they kept switching and things like that. And that's what happens in relationships. They say one thing, do something else. They promise one thing, do another thing, constantly changing plans, inconsistent in behavior. And you're trying to make sense of it because you're trying to keep the relationship together, but paraphrase you incorrectly and things like that. So a lot of this happens. Control and isolation happens. Taking up your financial independence, family rules, also around, like, no, you can't meet this person, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you trying to get that love from this person and that sense of relationship, you tend to follow all those things, hoping one day you will get that uh, nice love from this person, but it doesn't come. And they play to your values. Humility, you have values of humility, compassion, empathy, but they use those values because they know you're not going to leave those values. They use those values for their own gains. And you would follow those values: humility, compassion, tolerance, empathy, no matter how badly someone behaves with you, but because those are your values. And then they know that those are your values, and then they abuse you around that, take away your reputation, your resources, and all of that, right? And then there is the whole Stockholm syndrome. Don't have to explain it too much. And y'all can read more about these things. They'll withhold affection. It's like there are studies on this, and in that like in India, like in Kashmir, they the terrorists would capture some lay people and then want to negotiate with the government. And a lot of times, what would happen is that those lay people, the terrorists will not give them food for a few days and not allow them to clean themselves and wash themselves and things like that. And then suddenly they'll come, in the room and where they're in captivity and tell them that, oh, you need a bath, you need some food. Yeah, and one nice loving word from them makes them think that, no, this person is really nice. And it has so happened that in one of the bank, there was a in the US, that there was this some people were held hostage in a bank. And then it so turned out that through this withholding affection and then giving affection and then withholding affection and then giving affection, gradually what happened is that the people in captivity started thinking that the terrorists were really nice people because they were so without, like, resources. And then suddenly the terrorists would come and give resources, and then they created this whole narrative that, oh, I really want to do good to you, but you're in captivity because there's this police are outside, and if we go outside they're going to shoot you, but I really want to protect you, confusing them completely. That you start having a trauma bond or a loving bond or a Stockholm syndrome with the captivator. They treat you like an object. You are just a thing. You're tissue paper. You're toilet. You're just used and thrown, like our kitchen towels. You just clean and then you throw it away, right? That's how they treat people because that's how they treat themselves. And any sensitivity they show ever is only for getting your, to get back on your good side so that they can again get all your resources for their own great, right? So why do they trouble you? They trouble you for this. So this is the reveal stage. The reveal stage is, I'm just giving you an overview, a quick overview of the worst type of, a difficult relationship you could be in a toxic, narcissistic, emotionally abusive setting. Uh, and the reveal stage is about understanding them, but it's also understanding our own vulnerabilities, because not everyone becomes susceptible to their thing, what they do. And this is not about blaming the victim. This is about, we have full empathy for whoever is in that situation. And we're not saying that, hey, you are in the situation because you have these vulnerabilities and it's all your fault and things like that. No, it's more to support you, to understand, and to help you rise above that difficult relationship that one is in. And a lot of times, the vulnerabilities that people carry in those situations are, and I'm not looking at the chat, I see a lot of questions. I'm just trying to manage time here and complete this in time, but I will go over all of your questions. If there are questions, there's maybe I should check chat for a minute.
No, it's okay. We'll save the questions for the Q&A part.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. So to this kind of personality, because not everyone gets falls into that trap, you know and it's like, everyone is, the people who are vulnerable are usually very sincere, very sensitive people, but they do have low self-esteem, low sense of confidence. They feel unlovable. They feel they're not good enough. They feel that, I need to be perfect in order to earn love. And love is at a premium in this world. Care is at a premium in this world. And I have to be perfect. And if I'm getting it from somebody, wow, I don't deserve it. I'm not lovable the way I am. I'm just good for nothing. But, wow, I got this love from somewhere. And that's how the love bombing stage works on these people who tend to, and then because you feel unworthy, so when somebody, and the narcissist is very good at spotting their target, and they know how to then immediately swoop in, do the love bombing, make you feel, all that you've not felt in your life because of various situations you may be in, and then you think that's love, and then once you're hooked in, after that, then they stop doing all of that, and then because they wanted to hook you in, and once you're hooked in, then then you're hooked in. And then you're in the mind thinking about the whole love bombing stage, while what's really happening over here is you're like, no, no, but I had this experience with this person. Why is he behaving like this? He's actually capable of such a goodness. Maybe he's having a hard time at work. Maybe because, he or she lost their job, or, whatever that is, because you're still remembering that whole past experience, right? And it comes from, we've identified in the Heal Strong program, there are 10, characteristics of narcissistics that we want to understand really well. Another thing is we've identified, because we can keep identifying, but we have like 10 characteristics that um, you know make people vulnerable in those situations. And it's also the first two, and it's also lack of agency. It's a sense of learned helplessness, that, oh, I can't find the right people in my life. Oh, my fate is so bad, or I can't do anything about my relationship, or things like that, or I can't do anything to feel a higher sense of esteem, more confident in my life, and to take charge of my life, and to be goal oriented, and to grow ahead. So people with that lack of agency, and they have these traits because of a lot of past trauma that they're also carrying. Or my love can fix them. Empaths have that typical thing, my love can fix them. Or, oh, they need healing, because you people who usually get stuck in this, they really have a great understanding of emotions, feelings, and needs. And then they are able to, like, they see what's happening with the narcissist internally, and the pain and things like that, and they're like, oh, they need healing, and I'll help this person heal. So a lot of times marriages happen out of compassion also. And some can feel betrayed and vengeful. And then a lot of this, what happens is, you've seen the green things, now you see the maroon, the red things below that. It continuously being in those situations starts impacting your body. Headaches, insomnia, fatigue, autoimmune diseases. I had a doctor reach out to me on Friday. She's a rheumatologist, and she said that I'm helping patients in this, with their rheumatology, like rheumatoid arthritis and things like that. And she's like, I think I am going to get that disease because of this very difficult relationship I am in, and I know how painful this is. So please help me out. And then she signed up. So and then you can see, like, I'll just try to. Oh, can't see stuff here, but you can see the pink bar below, and how it impacts you. And, like, what does it do to your relationship? Like, you're in this situation, but you're sincere, and then, but you're breaking down internally. And what does it do to your relationship? The narcissist enjoys it because they want to break you down so that they can have you as their slaves, their supply for life. If you're breaking down, but the person in the relationship is immature, they're not going to get it. They're just going to get more irritated and call you names and be like, oh my God, this, my partner is sick. God, I have to deal with a sick partner. The narcissist would abandon you in that situation because you're not useful anymore. And if it's an emotionally healthy person, and if one is needy, they stay away because they don't want to take. They may try to help you, but they want to be with people who have some agency. Yes. So we did the reveal stage. Looking at the heal stage now, I've just given you all a very fast overview, just so that you understand what happens is. And why does the reveal stage help? The reveal stage is not just about knowing, oh, these people have these tendencies. It's also about knowing that if somebody has a narcissism, it's very difficult, almost impossible, unless there is God's grace for that person to change. So the reveal stage lends you with that vision also. And why is it difficult for them to change? Because by definition, narcissists are unable to love and accept themselves with their flaws. They can't see them, they can't accept them, they hate themselves with their flaws. So they have created this whole false self that they live with. And because they can't love them and accept them with their flaws, so they've created this false self so that they can get the love from everyone around them. They're very charming, trying to attract attention everywhere they go and things like that. And it becomes impossible for them to actually sit down with themselves and think about what they're doing, and that they should not do that they have this flaw. So the reveal stage also helps the person in that relationship uh, understand that I am dealing with something that's unchangeable here. And so you stop putting that effort in trying to change them, and you put all the energy in your own healing. And healing comes before dealing. Now, this is a reference from the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. This is the shloka reference 1.11, and there are a lot more shlokas that go deep into this. But interest of time, I've kept it short. Is that, say there is an emotional trauma incident or an emotional accident that you keep having in a difficult relationship. What happens is, and there are multiple of those in a difficult relationship in a single day, and the body keeps the score. There's a very nice book you could also read that talks about how all of this sits in your body. Um, and this is all very nicely described in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, is that whenever there's an emotional trauma incident, there is a mental memory of that incident. There is an emotional memory of that incident. If I ask you right now to think about a particular incident that happened 10 years ago, you're immediately going to feel all those same emotions that you felt at that time in that moment 10 years ago. And there's an energetic imprint of that emotional trauma incident in your chakras, in your aura. And 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 it's a negative energy imprint. And what happens is it festers on your organs and starts creating diseases. Now, because these memories are there, the person who is in that relationship ends up having these tendencies, which is overthinking, because they've lost their sense of confidence. They're anxious because these emotions are not resolved, so they keep bubbling up and then they keep suppressing it. Anxiety is a sign of you not being comfortable in a situation. So there's a lot of overthinking, over processing happening, and the memory keeps getting stronger, because the more you think, the memory gets stronger. Then the more your memory gets stronger and there are more and more unresolved emotions, your mind is very distracted, so they lose their level of performance at work, at home, and even basic tasks. This happened to me, and I remember once when I was coming back home from work, I was I was like, I pressed the button for the light so that I could walk, and it was so confusing for me. Like, do I cross the road when it's red, like the walk sign is red or walk sign is green? And this is me working in a tech job, doing really well, and I've totally lost my sense of bearings, right? And then as then somebody actually was walked ahead of me, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I need to walk at this, in this stage, and I was still telling myself that there's something wrong here. I am not so, I do have agency in life, and I can figure things out. What just did happen to me here? And I did lose my sense of confidence further. And then the next day when I went to work is when I got the award at work. And I'm like, this is not making sense. I don't know how to cross the road, which light. And here I'm getting an award. Something is not right. Right. And so the mind gets very distracted. And it was affecting my work also. Right. It affects our spiritual practices. And usually what happens in spiritual circles is that we say that, no, keep doing your spiritual practices really well and you'll be able to tide over that. But in order to do your spiritual practices as well, some healing is needed also. And then we carry these samskaras to the next life. For those who want the reference, you could take the reference 1.11 from the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and you can read that. And this is what it explains. Won't get into the details. So healing has to happen at 3 levels. The mental memory needs to be worked on. The past incident needs to be seen. There's another nice book that you all could read or concept. It's called Retelling of Your Stories. The whole past incident has to be seen in a different light. Whatever emotional support and understanding of your own emotions you needed at that time, but we abandoned ourselves, or our friends were not aware of how to help us. We need to be able to revisit those incidents with the help of someone and give ourselves that love and affection to that past self that needed it. The mental memory, the emotional memory. So mental memory is a retelling of stories. Emotional memories is what I just spoke about. Energetic memories is stuff that is sitting in your aura and chakras. I've just got a nice picture here of what happens when all of this is sitting in your auras. Your aura has a lot of holes and a lot of gaps, and a lot more negative energy comes in. So you start sinking faster. This needs to be worked upon. Just checking the chat if I'm doing good with time. Yes, I think I am. So now let's look at some solutions here. So healing has to happen at 3 levels, and the number one way. These 3 levels need to be done, and at a logical level also. And that's what I'm going to introduce now. So you have the mental level, the emotional level, the energetic level, and you have the logical level, where you have to train and change how you see yourself and change how you think, right? And people treat us at the according to the way we unconsciously treat ourselves, uh, generally, right? So there are two things here. They treat us at the level of which we treat ourselves. So if I am ready to eat in a, if I'm ready to sit in a very dirty room, people would think that she's fine with it and let her sit in that dirty room, right? But if I have a standard for myself, and I'm not talking about an arrogant standard or a standard coming from a place of ego, it's about me wanting to treat myself well. If I have a standard that no, I like to sit in clean places, and if somebody's still putting me into a dirty room, but I can't because that's not how I treat myself, I won't enter that dirty room, and I'll humbly request them that, this is a little difficult for me to be here. Is there another room I could be in? And then that's so. What happens is that when we have that sense of self care, which is we're honoring our life, honoring ourselves, honoring our needs, honoring our feelings, honoring our wants, our aspirations, ourself, our sense of being, it becomes a great protection mechanism from any kind of abuse. Because when you honor yourself and when you take care of yourself really well, it's very easy to spot when somebody else is not doing that to you. So you don't fall prey to that thing naturally. But when we don't treat ourselves well with love and affection and honoring this being that we are, this wonderful being, part and parcel of the Lord, and when we don't see ourselves from the Lord's point of view with unconditional love and acceptance, in spite of our flaws, the Lord loves us unconditionally. Lord's love is not at a premium for us. It's not that I have to be perfect and only then will I attract the Lord's love. And when we understand that self love, spiritual self love, taking care of myself, my needs, my feelings, honoring them within the boundaries of my values, and seeing myself from the Lord's point of view that I am by nature unconditionally lovable by the Lord. So that helps you elevate yourself spiritually as well, and it protects you from all these different abusive things. So it's not about you going and telling people how they should behave themselves. You don't have to go and set verbal boundaries and things like that. You may have to do in situations, and that we'll talk about the deal stage. But this becomes like a bubble of protection for you because you honor yourself. You don't end up being in situations where you are not being treated as a valuable human being, where your needs and feelings are not honored. So that's important. And we talked about this. You have unlimited value. God loves you unconditionally, and yes, and there's this beautiful shloka from our tradition, which is Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So when we connect with our spiritual identity, it also helps us understand that I am Purnam, I am complete. So the whatever Sanskrit I chanted for you, what it simple language for the purpose of this presentation, it has a much deeper meaning, but for the purpose of this talk, it means the Lord is complete. I am the Lord's part and parcel. I am also complete. I am complete in my own self, in my connection with the Lord, which means I am full of love and I'm fully loved by the Lord. I am not lacking in anything that I need to fulfill here in order to attract the Lord's love and attention. And I'm complete. A lot of times people remain in those patterns of narcissistic relationships. Um, and you may still be in that relationship, but not be caught in that cycle, is also because you're feeling that you're lacking. And the only way you can feel complete is when, there is somebody else who's loving you. And there are a lot of movies, right? And, those scenes are like the most watched scenes in the world is that um, I always refer to this movie, Jerry Maguire. There's Tom Cruise and Renee in an elevator, and then there is another couple talking in sign language, and then I think Tom asks Renee, like, what is he saying? And then she goes like, oh, he's saying you complete me. And then they smile at each other. Now, when we see that, we're like, oh, I am not complete, and somebody else is going to complete me, and that's what our psyche becomes. And then we are always scavenging and we're and then whatever breadcrumbs of love we get, we like kind of hold on to that, and then we remain and like, how can I get that love? Just like that rat, like what button should I press so that I get the cheese? But when you connect with your identity, that you're purnam, you're complete, then that's what you're able to attract. You automatically becomes a boundary, and it protects you uh, from many things, and it dissolves your scripts of being unworthy, unlovable, helpless, etc. And it protects you from all of these things. But you can't just focus on self love without working on these one, two, three that I talked about, and the logical reasoning to dissolve your scripts of being unworthy, unlovable, helpless, and things like that. Yes. And the second thing that I also tell people is to have very clear and strong goals that consume every cell of your being while you're navigating the relationship. So once you heal, work on your healing, and it's a process, it takes a year, sometimes it takes more with help, is that it have very clear goals of what you want to do in your life that consume every cell of your being, that you're very excited about, and that are towards contributing towards supporting others, loka sangraha, benefit others outside of your immediate circle, and a goal that's bigger than you and your immediate concerns. And that's what also helps you um, in hasten, fasten the healing process. Because if there is no such goal, people just remain in that situation. But then there's a goal you're excited by. You have an impetus, a motivation to heal yourself and do something meaningful with your life. And when you keep hearing the sound of your goals, as you can see in the picture, man with the headphones, you're continuously hearing that. Then everything else that's happening, it doesn't affect you that much. Like there was a woman very stressed out by her husband's behavior, extremely stressed out, and it was a narcissistic relationship, and she raised two daughters in that. But what she did is she didn't understand what was happening, and she kept blaming herself for everything and trying to make herself perfect and all of that. But she found some goal, and she worked on setting up this whole block printing industry, venture in Jaipur in India, with people who knew that art, and with the art was dying, and they knew that art, but they weren't able to sell. And she had a degree in social work, and then she just set up that whole endeavor, and she created this very strong process to bring joy to other people, and also have an identity and a very strong goal for herself to help others, and to also run her own social entrepreneurship venture. It helped her cancel out the noise. It's like a horse, like you cover the sides so that they don't see all the distracting and worrying stuff, and they just remain focused on what they want to achieve. And this happens. So you have limited mind space to process what's happening to you, and more mind space is dedicated towards something else. But again, you can sustain all of this when you have done the heal stage really well and you've worked on those 4 levels that I talked about. Now, will these 3 steps help you improve your relationship with them? And I'm talking about, like, if they're narcissists, no, they may not. And they may just stop bothering you because they may find somebody else to, find supply. They stop bothering you because they think that you're Teflon, nothing's sticking here. So they find somebody else. They may go in rage. They find some other people who are vulnerable so that they can get their narcissistic supply. They really don't care about you or having a relationship with you. They care about getting the supply. If they are the immature types, they will be confused about how to deal with you, but there will be some respect in their heart, and they'll learn how to deal better. And the emotionally mature ones will respect you and want to be around you. And then the deal stage, you can be successful here if you have done the reveal stage and the heal stage really well. And what happens usually is people want to do the deal stage first without having all of that in place. Now, when you have the heal and the reveal done well, you're operating from a very stable, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual space. And when you're in that stable stage, it becomes easy for you to deal without again becoming vulnerable to your needs, right? And then it reduces your susceptibility to a toxic narcissistic person. uh, and y'all can read some of these things on the slide, and I usually share this. Is then you learn how to deal where you don't stroke their ego. Ebis, you become boring to them. B is you become very boring to them. You stop giving emotional energy, explanations, and things like that in the relationship, and you deal with them as much as required. And you don't feel vulnerable again to their attack, or you don't feel vulnerable like, oh my God, if I behave like this, will I get their affection or not? Because you're complete. You've learned how to honor your needs and feelings. You've formed other connections where you feel honored and valued as a person. And you found the divine connection with the Lord where you feel blessed and you feel loved. And then you've done a lot of, and you continue doing a lot of inner work in each moment. Every time you're in that situation and there is a trigger for you, you keep doing that logical inner work of the heal stage that I talked about, the emotional inner work, the energetic inner work, the memory inner work. And you keep releasing, because this doesn't just happen as a switch. It needs to be done over time. And S is also to stop believing them. They're going to say a lot of nasty things and all of that, and you will stop believing them, because you have done the heal stage well and you've done the reveal stage well. Only then you can stop believing them, else you'll be stuck. And then connect with your source. And then there are many boundaries and things like that you could set up with, like financial boundaries become easy to set up, resource related boundaries, who's using the car, who's using the room, who's using the laptop, who's using this, who's using that. They usually don't want to have too many resources so that they can keep you in control, but it becomes easier for you to assert yourself. Our boundaries around time and space, learn how to do a little low contact with them. I'm not a no contact person. You do low contact in those situations, and you start, because you started valuing your needs and feelings. You start valuing your safety, your sleep, your health, and things like that, and you start taking care of yourself so that you're energized. Emotionally, we've talked about things, and a lot of times people who are vulnerable in these situations do come from a lot of childhood trauma that needs to be healed as well, attachment trauma, things like that. And then relational. And so these are some of the things that you start dealing better. You stop believing what they say, you stop taking their behavior personally, you stop expecting them to love you, you stop expecting emotional, all of these things, because you have learned how to give these things to yourself, and you've learned how to find people who can give this to yourself. I run a full program, the HealStrong Program. It's a year-long program that people join, where they do all of these different stages with us together, and the healing at those 4 levels that I talked about. It's very systematic, and we have different worksheet, and then there's an advanced program, which is a year-long program. I mean, you could do it in 6 months, but you get year-long access to the courses there, the systematic courses to help you do all these stages, and a community where you can post your questions, get answers from different people who are doing the course, and also from me and my team of coaches as we support you. Do that. And I have flashcards too. I'm very excited. They'll be available in the US in less than 2 weeks now. They're available in India. They're doing well. So this is about helping understand your feelings and needs better. And these are self-love, spiritual self-love affirmation cards, 7 days, just every day reading them together. And Srila Prabhupada, he's presentation and all the learnings in gratitude to him. So thank you very much. And I'll stop sharing screen. I think I made it in time.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Namita. You actually even gave us a minute early. So that was very, and I also put Namita's website in the chat. So please connect with her through there, namitapurohit.com. But we'll also be sharing this recording on YouTube, and we'll be putting all the links in the description there as well. So dear friends, it's time for us to do our breakout groups. And I'm going to share the reflection question in the chat, but I also will be sharing it in our WhatsApp groups, just because in Zoom, it tends to be difficult for us to see that after we're in the rooms. So the reflection question that Namita has for us to talk about is, after this talk, what's one thing that you'll do differently in your relationships and why? So I'm just going to pause the recording, and then we'll get started with breakout. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. This is the questions and answers and reflections section of our Urban Devi today. So this is your chance to get to ask Namita any questions. I know that there was a lot of questions in the chat before, or if you want to share any reflections from your time together in the breakout rooms. So if anybody wants to share, you can either raise your virtual hand or you can unmute yourself. I know, Poppy, you had a lot of questions. Did you want to start with some of those?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for this wonderful class. Everything resonated with me so deeply, and I'm so appreciative of this. Yeah, one thing I would like to speak on is reactive abuse, because being on narcissistic relationship, one can have, start the reactive abuse, and then the whole cycle of shame and guilt comes. So if you could speak briefly on that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you for asking that question. Reactive abuse, just so that, just say it again what it means if others, just to make everyone aware, if they're not, is that people get abused they're in a difficult situation and they keep giving, like, the lady who was being gaslighted, the exact gaslighting, that story that I shared with you from the movie. And then, like, one fine day she goes like, no, this somebody was actually changing the gas knob and putting it on mid, high and low, and that's how this happened. And then this lady is feeling angry that all of this happened to her, and like she was gaslighted and this and that, and then she's getting back to that person with all of that rage. And then they gaslight her further, and then they go like, look at how you're talking, you're abusing me, this is how you talk, and that's why I stay away, you're such an abusive person. And the narcissist would always call the other person the narcissist. Now this lady gets more and more enraged, and she may throw something, she may get more angry, she may do something, and then the narcissist will tell her that, see, you're so abusive. Now, because this lady is still an empath and is still a kind person and is still a person who wants to follow some values, she starts feeling extremely bad and extremely guilty about her own behavior. And that's what happens in reactive abuse. You're reacting to the abuse, and then you get called out again for that. So how do you handle that situation is what's very important is that empaths in narcissistic relationships, empaths have, and in general, they have learned to suppress their rage, their anger. And when you are in those difficult situations and somebody violates your boundaries, empaths have this inner script going on that, no, as a good person, I cannot take offense. I cannot get angry. I must tolerate everything that's happening to me. And what happens is you keep suppressing that rage over time, and then it comes out like a volcano where you get called out on your behavior, right? And it's not your fault. So the tip to not get into that cycle is to feel your rage fully, is to not suppress your rage, but in your reflective moments in your life, or with a therapist, or with a coach, or with a community, is to deeply feel how enraged you were in that situation. And that is an act of self love. That is an act of boundary setting too, because you're like, I was so enraged because this need of mine was violated. And it's not about arrogance here, but it's just truly coming from a place of self care. When you learn how to feel your rage deeply, you see the reveal stage is more clear to you, right? Your own vulnerabilities and what's happening to you. And then that feeling of rage more deeply is also dissolving that emotion. You're able to take care of your needs and feelings in that moment. And you're able to confront the narcissist very differently, or choose not to confront them at all because it's a waste of time. So this feeling of your rage is very important, I know. And in spiritual circles, people trying to follow spirituality, we're like, no, I cannot feel the rage. I should not do this. I should be tolerant. But that's a very high level of spirituality. And we all want to get there. But to be able to tolerate, we need to know what is disturbing us. And that comes from feeling our rage deeply. So I hope that helps you. If you can do some journaling and taking care of yourself like that also.
Thank you so much. Very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Poppy, for that question, and thank you, Namita, for answering it so beautifully. And next we have Nicole. Please, Nicole.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the presentation. It was wonderful. One thing that came up a couple times in the presentation that I was hoping you could clarify, you had wrote, become the narcissist's narcissist. Can you clarify what you meant by that?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it up because I couldn't cover everything in the slides. I just thought y'all will read and get some insights there. Becoming the narcissist is what happens is when you start living with the narcissist, you're still the empath in the relationship who is valuing their needs and feelings, who's valuing every emotion that they're evoking, who's valuing everything that they're saying. And the empath's nature is to like, what is this person saying? I need to process this. And then how do I care for this person in this moment? That's your natural response. And no matter what's happening to you, it's like the scorpion is biting the saint, but the saint is still picking up the scorpion and putting it back in the ocean, and then it again comes to bite, and then it again puts it, and then somebody's like, why are you doing this? They're asking the saint, why are you allowing the scorpion to bite you? And he's like, that's my nature. And this is the empath's nature, is to still value the feelings, the needs, and everything that this person is saying, even if it's all false, right? Because that's your nature. So you want to become not a narcissist, like a narcissistic person, and start being narcissistic to everyone, but you want to stop valuing their feelings and needs and emotions and things that they're saying. So you want to be a narcissist in that sense with them to protect yourself. Does that help? Does that clarify for you?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicole, for that clarifying question. And next we have Ishwari Sundari. Devi Dasi, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My question is a little bit complex. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I come from childhood abuse from my brother. It was sibling abuse, but very intense. At the time, I mean, I'm 56, so we're going back to times where there was no internet, no cell phones, no information readily available to us. So we didn't know what his condition was, meaning my family. So his abuse was treated like, just go with your grandmother, go hide in your room. Like it's almost like I had to be okay with the situation. And it just aggressively got worse as I got older. The last time he ended up beating me up severely was I was 48 and he got arrested. So, and I was just explaining this in the group. So I think though that childhood trauma that I experienced and the fact that it was ignored in a way, not because they didn't love me, but because they didn't know how to handle it, it spilled over into my adulthood. And I have had multiple, in fact, almost every relationship in my whole entire life has been a very abusive, narcissistic relationship, including my ex-husband. And so my relationships have been very short term. Like my marriage, 2 kids and everything included in that marriage was only 4 years. Because I get into the relationships, and then when I realize, when the love bombing is over and all of that, and then I realize, the person is unmasked, I'm quick to get out of it. And then I have this overwhelming feeling of freedom and accomplishment, which is so bizarre. And it's every single time, like I could breathe. And it's I've been thinking about going to therapy again. I did go when I was 48, and it did help out. They're the one, the therapist is the one who told me, do you know what narcissism is? Do you know what sociopath is? And I'm like, kind of, yes, no, not really, blah, blah, blah. And but she made me realize, she goes, you know that you married your brother, you date your brother, you date the relationship that you wish would have been a good one, and you're trying to fix people. I was oblivious to it. But now at this point in my life, my kids are grown, they're far from me, and I'm alone and I'm paralyzed and wanting to date because I feel like I'm gonna keep doing that. Date the narcissist, break up, feel free, feel accomplished. It's almost like I'm winning my brother over and over again. I don't know if that makes sense. My question with that background is, do I go, and I'm also like holding back from going to therapy because I don't know where to start or who to go to or what to focus on. So do I focus on childhood trauma first? Do I go and seek help for narcissistic attraction? Do I go for this freedom feeling? I don't know where to start, where to go. Do I go to a therapist? Do I go to a psychiatrist? Because sometimes I get this wave of deep depression, like chemical imbalance, but through yoga and, I'm also, bhakti, it does help. But right now it's getting to a point in my life where I am feeling again like a chemical imbalance is hitting me because I'm so paralyzed. And I could function at work great. I'm actually I just got a promotion and all that. Function perfectly, function outside. I could go with people. I'm always positive. I love to be with people, but then when I'm by myself, it's this um torture. And I'm being very raw and open here, so I hope that outside of this, group and this recording, it's not going to be a topic of conversation. I know a lot of people on this, but that's what I'm going through right now.
Thank you for sharing your deep story and with so much trust in this group. It's a lot that you've gone through, and my empathy and prayers for you. I was making notes as you were speaking, with whatever insights that I was getting, so that I may have looked like I wasn't focused, but I was just trying to write. So yes, the first thing. So what I've heard is that you're in a situation right now where you are aware that you have this cycle where you're constantly probably searching for your brother in all relationships and repeating that whole roller coaster over and over again in your life. And when you're out of it, you feel like a sense of accomplishment and you're actually doing well in your life, in your career and things like that. But internally, there's a lot of loneliness. And you want to have a partner again in your life, and you're wondering, how do you first heal yourself and work on yourselves so that you don't attract that same personality again in your life? And you're wondering which path should you go, and like who should you work with, and also which path you need to take. Have I understood you well? Okay, I think you said yes. Okay. Just a few things here. One of the things you mentioned is that, the way it was handled for you in your childhood was to get you to tolerate, go hide in the room or go here or go there. And that's a pattern in this world. The ones who are reasonable are the ones who are called on to tolerate. Repeat it. The ones who are reasonable are the ones who are called on to tolerate. Because the ones who are unreasonable, without boundaries, people know that no matter what I tell them, they're not going to listen. So how do I diffuse this situation? And you could see this in politics. You could see this in social systems, and you could see this everywhere. The ones who are reasonable are called on to tolerate, and that's what happened to you. The second thing I want to, maybe you could look this up and read about this online, is that the relationship with a narcissist can give an adrenaline, sorry, I'm not getting the word right. Yeah, you got the, yeah. It gives you that rush. It gives you that hormonal rush. And it's like, it's a lot of, the whole, the love bombing, and then the whole uncertainty that comes out of it. And then the withholding affection, and then the breadcrumbing and everything, right? It's actually doing something with all your hormones inside. And I don't remember all the names of the hormones to tell you exactly what's happening. You could read this up online. So there's something called as a trauma bond, where people remain in certain types of relationships because they are going through that high and low, and it's somewhere it gives some joy in some weird way, in a chemical way. So just explore for yourself if that's what's happening for you. You're getting that high, and then you're getting the low, and then you're getting the high again of accomplishment of leaving, and then you're again searching for that adventure because it's a roller coaster ride for them. And maybe you could replace that with finding adventure in other things. We all need that rush. Find it in a roller coaster, find it in a real roller coaster, or something at work where you get that rush. Now, regarding who should you approach for help is a great question. What I have seen is in my own life, and I went to a therapist for 6 years, and she actually enabled the narcissist in my life. I went for joint therapy. And what I realized is that not all therapists are equipped. They don't understand all of these things, and they're not equipped to help people with actually recovering from abuse. Another thing I saw with therapy is that while it's a beautiful science of understanding the mind and the body and things like that, I found a lot of people don't do goal-based programs. There's no roadmap set for your healing and your work. It's just like, oh, you come and you talk about your feelings and then come again when you want to. And you're like a recurring income patient for them, right? The longer you come, the better it is for them, the billing of the insurance and things like that. So find a therapist or a coach, whoever, any expert who has a roadmap set for you to help you work on your vulnerabilities towards narcissistic abuse. Someone who's expert in that, there are many people in the field, and you could get help like that, because and when you go in therapy, it's like, should I go to get a new, I think, I don't remember what your presenting issue was. Was it like to deal with the chemical imbalance, or to heal my past around like narcissistic abuse, or help in seeking out a new partner? All of these are actually all connected. And if I were you, I would work on my pattern of attracting narcissistic people in my life. That would help you with your chemical imbalance, the emotional highs and lows, and finding the right partner. Because when your energy has changed, when you've done all your inner work, you attract the right, the wrong people can't abuse you. They can't have a hold on you. And, the right people come. And regarding the seeking of your brother in each situation, what happens is that when it's a close relationship, you want to fix that experience, right? Because it's hard to accept your own brother did it, or your spouse did it to you. So we try to relive those experiences, hoping that this time it will fix itself. So therefore, the reveal stage helps, where you understand that this is unfixable. I hope this was helpful for you, and thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ishwari Sundari Devi Dasi, for your vulnerability and sharing this with all of us here, especially those who are going to be listening to the recording. They might be able to get some help with this as well. And Namita, thank you so much for kind of point by point addressing that. And it actually came up in the chat that somebody else also said that it's so important to work with a specialized practitioner who is equipped in trauma and is kind of has that speciality and that training. And then we also put a link to Karuna Care, which is a counselor and mental health professionals initiative through ISKCON as well, which is Bhakti practitioners who are licensed to help people with that. So we actually had a question in the chat from Devaki. She had asked Namita if you could please give the distinction between a narcissistic and a codependent relationship.
I'll make an attempt, but I'm not an expert with a lot of psychological terms, because so I'll make an attempt, and then I'll request the group to also share insights from their knowledge of this thing. And I also run the HealStrong program from narcissistic abuse. It's a specialized program with all these different stages to help people. So this is my understanding. A person can be completely independent, can be codependent, or they know how to be interdependent. That's my understanding. And the healthiest relationship is not between two independent individuals, or not between two codependent individuals. It's between two independent people who choose to be interdependent on each other, because they realize that I can't do it myself. My understanding is that the person with codependency can be susceptible to narcissistic abusive relationships, but they can also be in emotionally healthy relationship, in a relationship with an emotionally healthy person who's not abusive, but they may still be codependent and they may still be unhappy in that relationship. And then they may drive that emotionally healthy person away, because no matter what that person does for them, this person is still feeling a sense of lack within themselves, or lack of agency within themselves, because of which the whole relationship can become not so healthy. Or if they're with an immature person, then it's a constant irritation and a constant fight and a constant feeling of unmet needs. This is my knowledge of codependency. I don't know more beyond that. And if others in the group know, please share and support the lady who has asked this question.
Actually, Namita, that was a perfect example and explanation of those terms from my personal experience in terms of being in therapy. So thank you, Devaki, for asking that. So we have 5 or so more minutes, or actually, no, 3 more minutes for any last reflections or questions. So if anybody else has anything that they'd like to share. Yes, Jeannie?
Hi. I was blessed enough to share space with, or with our beautiful Mataji Rukmini, and she wanted me to share just a few things. I was born supply. I mean, literally, I was born into it. I've never played the victim, oddly enough. I was always told that self-love is selfish, and it's just, as we were saying, just a vicious cycle, generational. My question is, and I think I share it with, the lovely sisters that I was blessed enough to share space with. Also, is there any way, even, I mean, as we know, everything's a process. Is there any way that we can break out of this vicious cycle? I mean, like for me personally, I'm one, like when I'm chanting, I'm there, I'm ready. I'm one that when I'm in these meetings, I'm just, oh, this is it. But once it's over, here I am. Uh-oh, what do I do now? And I'm go head first right into it. In particularly with men. However, I am 54 and I've only been with 2 men in my life. That's not because I was only with 2 men. Oh, I know how to control myself. Far from it, not even near it. It was due to my childhood trauma, due to, do as I say, don't do as I do. But also, as another, a beautiful sister mentioned, my 2 individuals were literally mirrored images of dad, to put it lightly. And I found myself repeating mom to the only extent that I thought was her positive quality, taking care of dad. But then I realized, as you were saying, it was a codependent. Like, I do for you this, you do for me this. Everybody be happy. But no one was happy, especially them. So the whole thing is, dear, if there's any way other than, joining, groups and, finding therapy, is there anything that we can, as individuals, break out of this? Is there any
Yeah.
way? Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this. Thank you.
Yes, but follow the stages that I have talked about.
Okay.
I've given you a roadmap here. So it's reveal, heal, and deal. Yes, and you have the recording. And follow the stages. It just helps when you have somebody, you're working with someone, because they're able to see through things and they have the insights to help you move faster. But yeah, you can do it yourself. And we're all spirit souls and we're all complete. I've talked about that. And these are just aberrations that are there because of this assumed body and mind. And there is a way to dissolve all of this. And if you can follow these steps on your own, great. You will be out of this. And I wish you all the very best. And thank you for sharing. And thank you for not being a victim, even if everything that was being told to you.
Thank you, Jeannie, and thank you, Namita, and thank you everyone who has participated in today's Urban Devi, especially Namita, who has just opened up not a Pandora's box, but I'm going to think of it as like a Krishna's box that is just full of, revelations and healing opportunities. So unfortunately, it's time for us to wrap up, my friends, so we can't take any more questions at this time. However, Namita did share her contact information and it will be shared in our WhatsApp groups as well. So if you want to reach out to her, you'll be able to do that. Also, please write down in the chat any feedback on this session that you want to give to Namita, and I will be sharing that with her afterwards. So please, let's go ahead and move on to our dear Rukmini Walker, who will be finishing up our session with us today.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Namita. Thank you for so many practical, helpful suggestions. I love what you said about not working with a therapist who's just going to be billing you every month and you'll be just a steady income for that person, but rather work with someone who gives you a roadmap so you can see loved. You're quoting from Isha Upanishad that we're all complete, actually. So thank you so much. It was very helpful. And I wanted to tell you all, please join us, mark your calendars. Our next Urban Devi session, it's not always the same Sunday, but the next one is June 23rd. And my dear friend and sister Gopi Sandal, who lives in Kansas, will be speaking about trusting the divine hand that guides us. And her little summary of this is, she says, it is difficult to see how one step leads to another in our spiritual journey, unless we broaden our perspective. In the process of self-realization, baby steps are huge. She says, we'll be working at ways to sharpen observation of our progress. And this is like a roadmap thing too, Namita. I think it's great. And techniques for self-acceptance and, instant renewal of our deep intentions. When we acknowledge where we're at right now, we can also become a greater asset for others. So that's really beautiful. And thank you so much to all of you for joining. Thank you for being here. We're so grateful. Thank you, Damodar Priya. Thank you, Surabhi Govinda. Thank you, Namita. And thank you for each and every one of you for joining. This is a very sacred Sangha of wonderful women. And your friendship is a great joy in my life. So thank you for being here. Hare Krishna.